Well, folks, I have the great opportunity to talk with our Congresswoman here from the 6th Congressional District representing Washington State here, Emily Randall. Hello.
Hi.
Nice to see you in person.
It's so good. This is our first in-person conversation.
It is, and I'm excited to talk with you. You're in the district for a little bit, checking out things and talking with folks and meeting with people and offering up some great monies that you've been able to secure for them in Congress, which is awesome. And we're here at Urraco Coffee, a staple in Mason County and small business. Kind of want to start it with just talking about small businesses, some of the struggles they've been going through. There's a lot of uncertainty when it comes to people having disposable incomes to go shop and get coffees, tariffs associated, coffee beans, we hear about that a lot.
Absolutely.
What are some things that you've been able to work on or work in study groups in Congress about helping small businesses across the 6th and the state?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've been in pretty constant communication with small businesses in the district, including here in Mason County. In fact, we just came from a little community stakeholder roundtable at the Civic Center that is nearly 1 year to the day from the first roundtable that we convened after I was elected. And so folks brought some reflections about the challenges that they've been facing, their hopes and continued challenges looking forward, ways that we can be helpful. And we heard from some local businesses in the chamber about some of the immigration policy that's really causing additional pressure along with the tariffs that are driving up costs. Shellfish processors, timber, land, floral companies having a hard time, childcare workers, ensuring that their workers can come in safely because families are worried about raids and about losing a loved one and not being able to say goodbye to their children. And I've been working more and more, especially in these last months, on immigration policy alongside my colleagues in Congress on the Democratic side of the aisle, though we've seen more and more Republicans come out in the last few days recognizing that Department of Homeland Security immigration agents are acting unlawfully and out of step with the will of the American people. I was in Minnesota 2 weeks ago.
Sure.
And we'll keep pushing. I'm one of many members calling for Secretary Noem to step down or to impeach her. We need to see. We all agree that we need border security and immigration laws, but what we're seeing right now is not aligned with the priorities and the will of the American people. Nobody wants citizens murdered in the streets. That's certainly causing immigrant-owned businesses also to face fear and concern and chaos in our community and across the country. We've seen increases in, hateful rhetoric and violence, and we're trying to walk and chew gum at the same time to make sure that we're bringing financial services policies that help support small businesses, that we are, looking at grant funding opportunities that help support organizations in our community that are delivering results and that are serving folks. One of the things that we heard from the chamber today was that healthcare access is a barrier to recruiting and retaining employees in Mason County, and we've been working steadily on rural funding opportunities for hospitals, and I've long worked, even in my time in the legislature, on fighting consolidation of health systems, and that's something that we'll keep focusing on.
Mason Health has done a pretty good job, and they continue to open clinics across Mason County, but you're right, there are access issues to that. Another thing that a lot of the folks you probably talked with did talk to about childcare and the real lack of availability here, Mason County being a childcare desert is kind of what they talk about. And one of the things that they, along with the House of Representative legislatures for the state, have been looking at are different ways to kind of change maybe the verbiage or how daycares get access or accreditation or things like that. What are some of the federal ways that you can advocate for helping to kind of bring more accessibility and availability to childcare?
So most of the policy for childcare center certification and development happens at the state level, is locally controlled. There are some interesting policies for funding mechanisms because the state doesn't have enough money to invest in childcare to meet the needs of communities right now under the state's current budget. So there are some policies that would invest more money in childcare programs and state-supported childcare programs. I'm been in conversation with Sarah Jacobs, who's a member of Congress who happens to come from a very wealthy family whose policy ideas are to tax the trust funds of people like her to pay for childcare for kids that can't afford it. And I mean, I'm there for that kind of solution. I think we know we need more funding for programs like this. We know that investments in childcare like give back 7 times on the dollar to our local economies and save us that money long term for, kids who get access to the, early learning support that they need so that they, don't end up on subsidized, government supports longer term. That like the data bears that out. It's also good for parents who are trying to be able to get to work. And we lost so many women during the pandemic because there was even fewer childcare options. And so they're the first often to pull themselves out of the workforce to stay home with kids. So I think a lot of it is injecting funding in these community programs. And I've been really frustrated, I think, by, frustrated is not the right word, enraged by the attacks on Medicaid that also are part of the totality of funding that helps early learning and childcare programs and safety net for hard-hit families to function. There's a lot of mistrust about government funding for these programs, but if we think about childcare like infrastructure, the way we thought about like building utility lines or telephone lines, then we'll finally be able to see the results and the kind of future that we need.
One of the things, and I may be wrong on this, but like this, the definition back to the small businesses, it's like 500 employees or less, and those are huge businesses here in Mason County. I mean, what we're talking about and who you're meeting with are micro. It's 5 people or less, and so those are the ones that come up with the ideas that change the American dream, and they make the new this and that really make a lasting impact. And so when people are talking about small business funding, I think they think about definitely not the threshold being at 500. So how do you get more folks bought in on helping even smaller, these micro family-run mom and pop shops that are trying to just make ends meet with rising costs and insurance and utilities and all that?
I mean, I think I haven't seen a bill like this, but I think it's something that we could look for and explore if one doesn't exist, but to add an additional, definition under the SBA for Small Business Administration for, targeted loans. At the state level, some of the policies that I worked on that had sort of small business exemptions, like I passed a bill to require salaries to be posted in job postings so that folks knew what they were getting themselves into. We exempted businesses under 12 or 15 employees with the eye that there's some bandwidth issues at a job or employer that size. So looking for ways that we can carve out or dedicate funding specifically to these small businesses, I think is important, especially because childcare solutions that work are going to look different in a rural community, and they're going to look smaller because, you can't drive 2 hours to a childcare center and then drive back to work. That doesn't make sense for anyone. And so a lot of the ideas I've heard from, real parents in real rural communities around the district are, are there expansions of family, friends, and neighbor care? How can we stand up, smaller childcare centers? How can we encourage and incentivize an employer where it's safe to allow bring your infant to work policies? What are the tools, whether they're tax credits or otherwise, that will allow this different kind of infrastructure to build up, still with the safeguards that, kids and families deserve, but that allow for innovation in a way that works for us.
One thing that's not necessarily immigration, but it is people coming to our country. One thing we do here and pride ourselves on in Mason County is a place that people come, and when summer comes around, it's tourism.
Yeah.
Fjorden Crossing, you were at
Yeah.
that. And so people are coming in. The World Cup is going to be here in Seattle. And I've been hearing from a lot of folks who are really concerned that you know, I know Bremerton's making a big push to try to welcome people to come across the ferry line to be part of the World Cup, but there's a real concern, you know, from our neighbors to the north in Canada or other countries coming in to spend their tourist dollars here. What are ways you think either Congress or just USA 250, I don't know what, to let people know that we're open. It is safe to come here. We're friendly Americans.
Absolutely.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a question that a lot of members of Congress and local businesses have been having. I know there's like a town on the border in New York that, you know, on the American side, they have big like signs on all the streetlights. So we love Canadians.
Right,
you know?
yeah.
We talk a lot with the leadership, elected leadership in Port Angeles about like how we continue this cross-border, cross-straits relationship. I co-chaired a convening with the MP of British Columbia, as well as local stakeholders, local elected leaders about, you know, some of our challenges. And I think we're looking for these non-traditional diplomatic relationships because the official U.S.-Canada diplomatic relationships are so strained. You know, new for me to do this kind of international policy, but I think so much of it is about like having candid conversations with each other, being able to find ways to advocate for the solutions that folks need, and really like listening to understand. That's been successful so far with my engagements with, you know, Canadian officials. We've had some conversations with Mexican officials through my role in the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. And then, you know, I'm looking forward to taking the Black Ball Ferry, you know, across to Victoria with Mayor Dexter to continue to build those ties. I worry a little bit about, I certainly worry, and we worried in advance of World Pride last summer about the impact on like LGBTQ and non-binary immigrants coming over from, or not immigrants, but visitors, international visitors. Like, what will that experience be like for them coming through border checkpoints? Like, how will people experience showing up as a tourist intent on spending money in our country? Will they be welcomed or will they be treated badly? And I think we've written some letters to the administration to try and advocate for good treatment of people who are trying to spend their dollars here in our communities. But it definitely goes hand in hand with our work on immigration and our work on LGBTQ protections and our work on defending the rights of folks living in our country, because everybody deserves to be treated with respect.
Finally here, I know you have a lot to get to, but I want to talk a little bit about education, not only in the 6th, but across the state. I think all but 7 or 8 school districts in the state of Washington are asking their voters to pencil out potential levies. And while you know, you can't really advocate either way, what can you say about federal education funding and how that puts in a little jeopardy into what the state, and as you know, in the state there's challenges finding additional dollars for school districts there when it comes to that, but the education system is moving forward. It's a struggle now from the federal side down, or like what do you talk to voters about that?
So I bring certainly like my personal experience to this conversation about education. I went to South Kitsap schools, and I remember being in junior high when we failed 3 levies in a row, and we lost student activities, we lost sports, we lost field trips. You know, the doors shut right after the bell rang, and you know, if you wanted to participate in sports as a 9th grader, then you could try out at the high school, but that was it. And I know what that felt like as a student. It felt like my community didn't care about my education. They didn't care about me having like activities to do after school that weren't getting in trouble. And we had my 20th high school reunion a couple years ago, and I talked to my classmates who felt the same way. And we've done some work at the state level over the last many years. First, the McCleary fix before I got to the Senate, but then like increases in special education dollars and in that formula to get more money to schools. My mom's been a paraeducator for 26 years, and they're always short paraeducators. We were out at Matlock today, and their formula funding gives them enough for one paraeducator. All of the rest is made up through local dollars and levies. And making sure that students have all that they need to learn and thrive is so important to the future of our country and our communities. I think we shouldn't be dismantling the Department of Education, which my Republican colleagues and the Trump regime have been trying to do. But also, we should fully fund IDEA, which was the intention when it passed the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. The federal government has never fully funded its commitment to special education. And that means that the state is picking up so much of that cost to educate students who deserve free and appropriate education. But that means that those state dollars and local dollars are used for that and not anything else. And if the federal government would meet its obligation to fund special education for students, then it would free up additional state and local money to provide more opportunities, to invest more in career and technical education, to provide more pathways to post high school opportunity, to provide even activities and field trips so that students didn't have to, find the money themselves if they wanted to participate. And I'm on a bill to do that, to expand IDEA funding. But right now it feels so far away because of, as I said, the fact that this government is trying to dismantle the Department of Education.
I'll put the links to Congresswoman Randall's website on the show notes for this. We're at Urraco Coffee in Shelton. I know you've got a lot to get to.
Yeah.
It's good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
And I hope to continue these conversations through the rest of the year.
I look forward to it. Thanks for taking the time.